We're excited that you all are here because learning a little bit more about what we do and what's needed and where you can find an interest to fit in to this whole structure. As you may know, we have over 1,200 members, and this is an all volunteer organization. We have no paid staff. So everyone pitching in really makes this organization work, and it has worked for over 125 years. So this style of organization can work, but it's takes a lot of hands. So I will just talk very briefly about the governance committee. Uh, the role of governance is primarily to structure and manage a process for selection of board members. And also, that includes, we have two types of board members. You'll see that there's an election coming up for four positions of vice president, treasurer, corresponding secretary, and member at large. And then there are the other committee heads who are also board members, but they are nominated to be appointed by the board and primarily the president. So that's not an elected position. So there are these two types of positions. But the governance committee recommends the timetable, which we're in that now. This month will be the month for nominations. And then the committee works with the board to stagger the board elections and the service so that not everybody's going off the board at once. We have a lot of veteran members on the board, but also members who are stepping down this year. We're very fortunate because they're all in town. They're all willing to support new members who are coming into their offices. We work with the board, of course, to identify MMS members who might run for office, to encourage them and help them if they need help in nominating themselves or others, and helping new board members understand their roles. And as part of the legal compliance and ethical accountability of the board, we conduct a periodic review of the articles of incorporation. We have a change we need to do on that. Somehow or other, the member at large got left off. So that needs to be rectified. And then working with the board on best practices for boards. So I turn that over now so you can learn more about some of the positions that you may wish to join, and also nominate for our board officers.
Thank you, Adele. I did this backwards. I was supposed to introduce you first, and hopefully everybody got to read a little bit about your history and that you have been a member since 1989 and been serving as the governance chair since 2022. But you've also been super involved in Foray Collections Recorder, both for MMS and for NAMA. I think I first saw you in that back room at NAMA recording specimens deep into the night. So I loved when I read your bio that your favorite mushroom is Agaricus subrufescens, and any mushroom whose name doesn't change. So I thought that was fun. All right, I'm going to move on to our elected role of president. And Peter, that is you who have been a member since 1998 and president since 2021. So you have another year left in your term. But you have been really involved in community events and forays and really trying to raise awareness on foraging issues for public policy. And I know you and I have talked a lot about trying to bring back some of the cooking demo type things and other events that kind of went away with COVID. So there's a lot of people interested in that.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate it. I want to thank Kathy especially for kind of doing the introductions meeting tonight. I'm literally in the middle of Wisconsin driving to so I'm a little I'm multitasking here a little bit, but I want to thank Kathy so much for her getting this organized because it's very important that we make our members aware of you know what what our roles are and what we do, and also let people know that if they want to get involved in our clubs and societies activities, there are so many opportunities that they can involve themselves in and you know, take initiatives on. The board is very supportive of people planning opportunities for members to learn, to get together, and a variety of different things. What I've taken on as my role of president is really to try to create greater outreach opportunities for some of our natural partners. I've tried to make reconnections with the Bell Museum, for example, and I hope people enjoyed the two opportunities to spend time at the Bell here last weekend, or the weekend before, I guess. And I hope that they enjoyed that. We sure enjoyed putting it together. And I want to say that, you know, it's those kind of connections that I see give our members greater connections to the mycology, the science, and also in other ways, we try to do events, to do outreach, to connect with other groups that share our interest in the outdoors, the natural world, and we really want to engage with those people. And if they're interested in learning about mushrooms, obviously we're a good place to provide those that opportunity for them. Further, I kind of stay abreast of what's going on with our finances, what's going on with, you know, all the different committees. I do have been involved in forays in different positions with forays, and so I do lead forays and on occasion and stuff like that, and just try to engage our members and answer their questions any way that I can. If anybody has any questions for me, please take this opportunity to ask.
Well, you guys hear me talk all the time, ramble on. But yeah, I've been a member since 2006. I started on the board as recording secretary, and it was a role that I wanted to get out of right away because I felt like I was too busy taking notes to talk. So I had to see if someone else would be recording secretary. I think I became member at large and then became vice president. I also do the scheduling of the speakers, which is not necessarily a vice president role. It's just something that I took on because I thought it would be fun. It's more of a committee role, and I'll probably be kind of transitioning out of that in the next year after I get a nice process set up to hand off to someone else, because I think it's a really fun thing to do. I would say the thing I'm the most proud of in the MMS is starting the Merrick Turowski Scholarship. in memory of our late friend. And that ended up becoming sort of the format for what they've done for scholarships for the NAMA forays. So I felt like it sort of ended up being a little seed that grew and spread and gave other people opportunities. So yeah, we have probably, as you know, a meeting every month, and then 2 months in May and September when it's busy. So we do 14 meetings a year. And you are going to see later on in the presentation just how overlapping everything is, how we try to decide, is this a meeting? Is this an event? Is this an educational outreach? When you're an educational organization, lots of things end up feeling like they could fall under education, but we don't want to overwhelm one committee. So we sort of spread things out and people take on what interests them. And I guess that would be my biggest reason to say we'd love to have more people join the committees, is we don't want to limit the things we do just based on the bandwidth of the current people doing it. And there might be things that we haven't thought of doing that maybe you're itching to share. So yeah, so thanks for that. Randy can't be here tonight, but he is our scholarship chair and he does a great job of it. We have graduate scholarships that we send out. He's just sent out all of the announcements for the next year. And then of course the Merrick Scholarship. And then those scholarship winners end up being our speakers. So when you start thinking about organizing speakers for the year, a lot of them are already done, and we get these great scientific theses from our scholarship winners. So Randy is doing the scholarship updating and the outreach, and then connects with, let's see, I think I've got this in the next slide. Yeah, he ends up sharing those applications he gets, voting on them with people. We schedule them as speakers. And then when they have fulfilled their commitment, he follows up with Therese, our treasurer, to make sure people get their scholarship money. So, and you're going to see that Randy does a lot of other stuff as well. He's always our cultivation guy. So again, a lot of overlap. So Aaron is our recording secretary. So he is the guy who takes all of the notes at the sometimes quite lengthy board meetings, but also I feel like is the calm voice of reason. And he also right now is the interim DEI, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion chair. And that is something that we really wanted to create and just haven't had the people to really get it under us like we'd like to. So I'd encourage people, if you're interested in that as well, that would be something you could work with Aaron on and hopefully take over and make that be a bigger part of our club. And yeah, Aaron did lead the Lake Carlos State Park camping foray and is an active member of the MMS funk group. So he's kind of spreading out like mycelium to the different committees as well. And Therese, our treasurer. Therese, you've been a member for 11 years and are serving as our treasurer. Sometimes you sell merchandise with me. I was excited that you got us all hooked up with PayPal and Zettle, and we're kind of getting everything all digitized. But you love learning about fungi and how it supports soil health. Walking through the woods with Squatch to find some new mushrooms, and love finding new ways to cook and eat mushrooms and buying mushroom things.
Thank you, Kathy. As I was trying to figure out how long I've been a member, I thought, well, I'm kind of like Bigfoot. I've been a member for many, many years, but I've been hiding in the shadows. So I finally stepped up and took on the role of treasurer almost 2 years ago, and really great to be part of this board, and I've learned a lot more about mushrooms, just being around so many knowledgeable people on the board. And I've also learned a bit, I've had a long background in nonprofit accounting, but a different type of accounting. I've never worked for a membership organization. I've never worked for an organization that sells some merchandise either. So it's been if you can think about accounting being exciting, it's been a pretty exciting ride, learning all those new things. And then I took over, filled the shoes of Claudette, who was the treasurer for many years. And so learning from her too on how the systems work has been really wonderful to have that mentorship too. My particular role it includes a lot of different things, just being the financial overseer of the books of the organization. I maintain the checkbook and record the monies, the membership dues that come in and any other income, and then make sure it's all reconciled. I help with the budgeting. So you can see, want to make sure that we're spending our money not on a spa day, but for a foray. So I just watch all the monies in and out. I work with the board. They're all reviewing their reports. So if they see something that doesn't look like I coded it quite right, they'll take a look at their reports and say, this really goes here, not there. And so we work together on that. And then I help in preparing the reports. We're doing the reports a little different. So because of my nonprofit background, I'm creating more of standardized financial statements. And so I help the board as we go through those, just to kind of understand the nonprofit accounting rules. And then I work with a lot of the other teams too, closely with memberships and events, because there's a lot of money in and out for example, for the banquet and the 125th celebration. So that was wonderful. And then just trying to formalize some of the policies. There's a lot of policies that have been, the way we operate, or a listing of, say, our charters, but trying to expand the policies to offer more detail and kind of give people a roadmap and consistent rules across the club for us to understand what the policies are and how we stay in alignment with the regulations and stuff, the state and federal regs. And then the other thing is just overseeing the cash flow. So we have some monies that are in CDs at the bank, and just making sure that those are maturing at the right time to meet our financial obligations when the invoices come in. We want to keep that money kind of invested so that we're getting a little extra income on the cash that we're not using immediately. So just watching the cash inflows and outflows. That's what I'm doing for the organization, and it's been very exciting. And I was telling the board a couple of weeks ago, the most exciting thing for me is to put the financials in QuickBooks Online. So I've been having a lot of fun learning that and putting everything together for us to just magically push a button and get out a financial statement. So that's been really fun too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I learned something when I was putting together everyone's bios too. And I know this didn't make it into the final, but Therese was sharing a mushroom that is a bright blue mushroom that is on money in New Zealand. And I'm like, leave it to an accountant or treasurer to talk about mushrooms that are on money. Well, thank you, Therese.
Yep.
And Claudette, it was hard to not have Claudette's bio be 10 pages because there's no list of what Sean and Claudette do for our club, but she was our treasurer for many years, and she's still the finance chair and is the membership coordinator. Claudette's been an MMS member since 2007. And anything you attend, she has probably helped work on at the MMS banquet, the auction, the state fair display. But truly, she has been a forager since she was very, very little, and she loves forays and teaching people about mushrooms. She serves on the education committee, teaches beginners classes, certification classes, and is always at the family fungi event. She and John do mushroom presentations all over the state, actually, and have attended things all over the world. And she loves going out with her grandkids. It's really fun to see how she has brought younger people into the fold here, and it's fun to walk next to her granddaughter who knows more than a lot of us know already.
Well, at least she likes to eat a lot of different mushrooms. That's she's not so picky about that. So I'm just going to talk a little bit tonight about financial chair and how I work with Therese. She took over as treasurer, and I'm learning a lot from her, but it's gone way beyond what I used to do as a treasurer because the club is just growing so much. But I think, her position is an elected position and my position is an appointed position. So we do want to have someone that's, willing to work in the finance area with her. My job is to, some of my duties are just, to be alongside of her as she goes through this process. Mentoring her. I'm a second signature on some of our checks that are above a certain amount. I assist committee chairs with, helping with their financing process. For example, this year, under scholarship, Randy was new, so we sat down and I worked with him ahead of time and talked to him about the budget and how to put it together. The same is true with when we were working on the cultivation workshop, trying to put it together, making sure that he got his budget turned in. Often I try to go back to people and give them their information about what their budget was last year and then talk them through, what do you think we should add on to it this year? And a lot of that comes from experience about doing that activity with them. So in working with Heather at the state fair, we learned that, there was certain posters we wanted to have each year. And so we wanted to budget for that. And it gets to be a long day, so we definitely need to have that water there. So those kind of things are what I do. The other thing is hooks to is membership. And so John here and I have worked together on membership, but basically membership just tracks our membership, answers any questions regarding the specific member's status. For example, maybe you joined as a single person and then you decided, oh, I've just got married. I'd like to add my significant other to the membership. And so then you might contact us and say, how can I do that? How can I upgrade my membership? We also assist with committee chairs if they have specific events that they need to make sure that, for example, the person that's attending is a member. So they might contact membership and say, okay, I've got this list of people. Are all these people members of our club? So then you just would check through the membership and make sure everyone is. So that's kind of what we do. We answer any questions that people might have about membership. What else do you want to say about that? Anything? We work together. We're quite a team. So we do a lot of things together, foraying together, as well as, help each other out when it's various things, because we do a lot of different hats in the club. So we just team up and cover as much as we can because we're all volunteers.
And with the growth in the club, the budgeting process is fairly new to us. So we're really trying to work to establish budgets for every one of the particular committees so that we get a better handle on what we spend and where we can spend to assist with our outreach and our education mission, because those are the two primary missions that we have, is education and outreach. And social for us as well. So which is something we hope to get back to a lot better since COVID.
I'd have to say my favorite mushroom is the one I'm holding there, my taki. I'll let it go at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, and I forgot to mention just the bookkeeping, and not just money and not just accounts, but it's like, again, when I'm like, well, we haven't done the potluck since maybe 2019. Claudette, do you have that list of approved mushrooms? And like, it's like magic. It appears for me. Claudette is so organized that if you wanted to know how many people were at the last meeting or how to sign up for a foray or any of those things, I bet she has it tracked somewhere and you could find out. So thank you for that.
Yep. You're welcome.
All right. And John, past president, and the acting 4A chair. And I think we're hoping to find a new 4A chair because it's a lot of work. Yeah, I think you learned a little bit about John through Claudette. He's also been a member since 2007 and has probably been on the board almost as long. You guys have hunted mushrooms, not just all over the US, but I remember when you went to Germany and took a certification class or went to a class with that group in Germany and in Australia and Italy. So they're really, really interested in mushrooms and seeing them all over the world. So they're completely teaching the certification classes here, and that's with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And again, I was starting to list all the places you guys presented, and it was just too long. So I just had to say it's too numerous to list. But really great outreach for our club when you were on Minnesota Bound and Care 11 or on the radio. It's kind of like you're the like the Coach Walls almost, the guy with the voice who's gonna tell us how it is, like Coach Lumpy telling about talking and representing the MMS. And also NAMA. John did the scholarships for NAMA for a lot of years and also won the 2019 Knight in Service Award. So yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. So it's been incredibly fun. 4A committee tasks. So basically what we do is we come up with lists of 4As, possible 4As. We figure out how do we staff them? How do we make them happen and try to plug people in and then try to get people signed up for them. And then we see, we analyze what has worked, what has not worked. We provide lists back to the to Adele in particular for our reports back to, well, and Peter as well, reports back to the DNR so that they can get our list back because they've expressed some interest in exactly what we find. That's one of the requirements of the permitting process that we've had to go through for getting into state parks. And then we also have to really analyze and work with local organizations to make sure that we are indeed on the up and up when we're traipsing around the woods and doing an organized foray, that we're not violating some rules. We need to we try to entice volunteers, and we really rely on volunteers to help us with our leadership. My numbers were actually, we provided nearly 1,000 opportunities this past year, and we relied on about 125 volunteer positions. Many of those were doubled up because a number of us will work a number of them, because leading a foray is really a fun thing, or assisting on a foray is really a fun thing, and you learn so much. So those opportunities are incredibly good. So we try to provide as many of those opportunities as we possibly can. The training thing is an important one. I think I have on a second slide. Let's see. So there's one of the things that we're working on to do a better job of is making sure that we have photos made available for the social media and website use. We need to make sure that we've got 4A reviews so we can analyze better how we're serving our members, and we have 4A kits. So just that's some of the minutia that we take care of on a regular basis. We have a committee of approximately 8 or 10 individuals, including a group from the Paul Bunyan Mycological chapter up north, who really does a good job of autonomously setting up their leadership for supporting 7 4As or so that are held up there. So we did about 30 4As this year. We reached that number because Yitka recently did the Cloquet one, which I hear was really a fantastic success. We had 2 additional camping ones this year, so there was an overnight and 2 camping ones. We look for additional opportunities all the time to see what we can provide to our members. So that's one of the big things that we do. And then we also look for ways to recognize our volunteers, because in our volunteers, there are many opportunities, as Peter mentioned, to support this all volunteer organization. And we would not be able to carry off all the things that we do, but nowhere do we rely on volunteers more than with the 4As. So there's a greater number of individuals probably who volunteer for leading 1 or 2 or assisting with 1 or 2 4As or even more. And many of them, jump into it with little or no experience and realize that, hey, this is not rocket science. We can do this. Or as one of the coaches that I used to coach baseball with, this is not rocket surgery. Is what he always used to say. And he was supposedly a bright kid. He went to Purdue though, so maybe not. But at any rate, we do hold rather frequent board meetings just to make sure that we've got our list together and we've got our staffing and we've got our deadline set so that we can work with the web people to make sure that our 4As are released in a timely manner and that signups can be done and we get our lists all together. So, there's a number of things in the 4A committee that we do to make sure that happens. And it's a far cry from when we first joined, where poor Lee Mollerman ran all of the 4As. And yep, it's a different world now. We got way more people. So
thanks, John. Yeah, I have to say, I joined the club by just learning about a 4A and showing up, and there was maybe a dozen people there. And back in the day, that's what worked. You would just say, we're going to be here, show up, and 10 people would show up, maybe 20 tops. Our club has grown so much. It turns out we can't just do that. We can't invite 50 or 100 or 200 people to a state park. That's not being good stewards of the areas. So it takes a lot of work to kind of coordinate and make sure that we have a location. I bet lots of people didn't know we had to get permits to be in those places. And then, of course, try to have a sign up and have it be fair. And how do you get 1,200 people through the woods in a year? You have lots and lots of 4As, which means you need lots of volunteers. So well done. It's really impressive. I think Troy is not here tonight, but he is the chair of the fungi group. And a lot of the specimens from the 4As, I think, make their way there. John, are you able to talk a little bit about what the fungi group does as well?
I will talk about that. So we are too small of a group. We actually need some more members to join in. And one of our primary goals now, we try to meet on a semi-monthly basis every month or two to try to gather specimens that we're trying to turn in for DNA analysis. And there's a fairly simple checklist and process that we are developing and working on that our members are going to be able to utilize as long as they follow that process and that checklist. So that's our primary goal at present. Our long-term goal is to actually get more submissions into the Bell Museum because that process has become it's much more difficult and it's much more involved, and it really puts a lot more onus on us for identifications and to make sure that that identification is good, because the Bell Museum doesn't double check our work necessarily. So if we do a bad job in our ID and we turn in something to them, we put them in a bad situation. So we are, it's very important for us to really carry the mantle of citizen science much more closely and take it much more personally. And that's what we're trying to do. We do on time, from time to time, work on microscopy and some other things to actually go further in depth on the identification of individual mushrooms. Currently, I think it's about 300 specimens that we're trying to get in this year for DNA analysis to Steve Russell's lab in Indiana. So that's what we're working towards. And, we've made a good dent in that. But there is a field requirement of taking a picture and using iNaturalist for taking a good photo. A suite of good photos to accompany whatever specimens that we turn in. So we're going to continue to work to try to provide as much education back when we make sure that we in the committee are good at doing it, then to educate the rest of the people on how simple it actually is.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. And if you have been on a foray, you've probably seen Ron. Ron is also a past president and is the current chair of the education committee. He is one of the key identifiers we have, so you'd likely see him at forays. I really love this picture, which I actually just went and took off of our Facebook page. So kudos to whoever took this photo of Ron. But Ron gives presentations all over the country, all over the world, and he knows more than most of us ever will. He also was a recipient of the Harry and Elise Knight in Service Award by NAMA in 2011. So I'm gonna Ron, you've got this great list of, well, first, some of the education committee members, and I know there's maybe some more people who help out who may be formally members.
Okay, well, one of our main goals is to teach people how to go out and find edible mushrooms and not poison themselves. So we do try to do that, and we do that on forays. So all of our forays, we'll have one of the volunteers will be an educator. And we also have like a co-educator too, who's there to learn from the main educator. And then we also so we like to teach mushroom identification skills, both for edible and scientific purposes. And like I say, we do that at the forays. Also, usually in the past, we've had usually 2 or 3 or ID meetings in person where you can bring your mushrooms into, like more recently it's been to Borlaug Hall, where we were having in-person meetings, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to continue to have some of those, so the ID meetings, and those have been hybrid meetings recently. So people bring in their mushrooms, and then we find some that are interesting and go over what you need to look for in order to identify mushrooms. Let's see. Yeah, and like we also on our forays, one of the things we do is to if the people on the foray have not been introduced to iNaturalist, we introduce them to iNaturalist and try to get them get their app going for them, and that's been in the last couple of years we've really been trying to promote people to use the iNaturalist software, and that software can help for identification too. You can point your smartphone at the mushrooms, get a couple of different shots, and you may get the right answer, but it can be pretty helpful, but it's not always correct. So therefore, it is necessary to know all the things you need to look for to learn to identify mushrooms. And like John was saying, we're trying to do some collecting for to turn into the bell to do DNA sequencing on. Yeah, so and then a lot of our activities will have educational components to it, like at our family, we've have a family foray we had last year, and part of that was having a mushroom cultivation workshop. And Randy Strobel is our mushroom cultivation guy now, and he does a really good job on that. And so then there's we would like to encourage people to get involved in other educational things like crafts and cooking and things like that. And at our 125th anniversary, we did have Randy was there doing a mushroom cultivation, and also we had making paper from mushrooms. That was like, again, in the past we've had some meetings doing that, and that I was really glad to see a return to that. Okay, maybe next slide, I think. Okay, so here's some of the things we're currently doing. Okay, well, one of the big things is the certification that you need in order to sell wild mushrooms in Minnesota. And the Minnesota statute says that the certification has to come from classes either offered by the university or by a local mycological society. And currently, we are the only game in town for doing the certification. In the past, the University Extension did do some certifying, but not anymore. So we generally have two classes, two certification classes during the year. We divide them, and these are for the edible mushrooms. Like we divide them up, and so we usually have one in the spring before. Well, no, it actually would maybe like in February. We've had the certification classes in preparation for spring and summer mushrooms, which would be morels, chanterelles, and black trumpets, and those kind of things. And then a later class in the summer, say maybe July, for some other edible mushrooms for example, say hen of the woods, chicken of the woods, giant puffballs and things like that. And then this year we started doing beginners classes. We've had two beginners classes. We had we had one in the spring, and we just had a beginners class last weekend on last Saturday, and they are free. So the certification classes, there is a fee for those, but the beginners class is free. And again, for these classes, I have to say I'm really indebted and grateful to John and Claudette for finding venues to have our classes, like in the Diamond Head Center, and in beginners classes we had at Burnsville High School, and I think they went pretty well. I think we had some favorable reactions to it. Then we also do a lot of, I guess you would call it, outreach type things. Well, one thing is the state fair, which is very educational, and this will introduce the public to what we do. In fact, it's a source of membership. We usually have a state fair special every year during the state fair. And then one of the things also that we do at the state fair is we have, usually it's John or I will do a mushroom presentation to the public at what's called the dirt stage. And then another big event we have every year it's been going on for, I don't know, I think maybe over 10 years, the Da Vinci Fest, which is at Stillwater High School. And then also recently this year, we had the Family Day, thanks mostly to Claudette and Kathy and others. And so we did, like I mentioned, we had cultivation workshop, but also we had some fun activities for kids and some mushroom storytelling. Okay, next, I think. Okay, so goals. We would like to, like on our forays, one of the main volunteers that we have is identifier, and it would be good. We would like to train more people to fall into that role, and we do. John and I do a lot, but also Kathy and Aaron and Yitka, and anyway, there's some other club members that do help with that role, but I would like to see some more, more people get some training so to fall into that role on the forays. And mainly what that would involve would be not to be able to necessarily identify every species, but I think it would be fair to have an educator that could get most of the genera and if you can get a lot, well, for, like, if you get to things like Cortinarius or Conosabe or Inosabe, you're lucky if you can get it to the genus. So anyway, knowledge of the major genera would be nice. And I don't know, another idea, this is kind of the outreach thing. We do get a lot of requests for people to speak to various organizations like, well, garden clubs and master naturalists, and community education. I know John and Claudette are doing a lot of that. I have done a lot in the past, but maybe it would be good if we could have something like a speakers bureau, which NAMA has something along that line, so that when requests come in, that we would be able to provide a list of people who can do presentations and maybe what their special areas of interest are. And you know, I would really welcome ideas on other educational programs and activities that we can do. And I would invite people especially people who have a background or interest in education. I know, like, often on our forays, we will have teachers that will be along on our forays, and they're really interested in what they can take back with them to their classrooms. So again, thanks to John and Claudette for all they do and for everybody. So I'll pass on that. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, it's hard sometimes to know what falls under the education committee, what falls under the foray committee, what falls under the events committee, because they start to overlap a lot. And again, you'll see a lot of the people overlapping. But that's just kind of how it flows. You're doing one thing and someone has an idea and we get a request. Next, I want to introduce Jane Onorati, who's our communications and IT committee chair, because all the things you've heard of so far, all of the events, the meetings, the forays, none of that happens without the word getting out to people. And Jane has worked really, really hard to make sure that those things are a bit more automated, that we're not kind of standing, filling out paper forms and taking checks for membership, that people can renew online, they can sign their waivers. We can sign up for forays and make sure that they're all released at a time, so it's not like all at once, that there's a way for people to have a chance to get into things or sign up for the beginners class or any of the events we do. Jane spends a lot of time making sure all of those different digital platforms are covered. And she has been a member since 2014 and been our web admin since 2017, and then took on corresponding secretary in 2021, saying, well, I'm putting all the stuff on the web anyway, maybe I should just gather the info. So she really kind of, I appreciate how someone will have something and maybe not have all the details, and she knows how to make sure that the kind of like all of those details are counted, that we make sure we get the date and the time and the location and a map. She works in Google Workspace, MailChimp, Ticketailor, Facebook, and Zoom. She's also a member of the foray committee and has served as a foray leader. And she helped develop that first time we ever did a camping weekend, which has become really popular. And I think it's just a really fun way to get out and have some of that social time with other people and get to know people. Her favorite activities are camping and hiking, and naturally finding mushrooms is a part of that. And as web admin, she loves creative and challenging projects that use the programming and data analysis to really automate some of our tasks and make it smooth. So.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to see you all, and I hope you're having a nice evening. And yeah, this is Communications and IT Committee is well, communications and IT, you know, go hand in hand, because we use technology now mostly to communicate, and we've taken a lot of the things that we used to do, you know, without quite so much technology now, and we're integrating it more and more in everything that we do. And my job as corresponding secretary kind of overlaps with this, but it isn't necessarily everything that's in communications and IT. So my job as webmaster is not really isn't part of being the corresponding secretary, for instance. So, but the communications and IT committee, and I call it commit just because it's kind of long. We're responsible for communicating with both members and the public, and we use different online vehicles and things like the quarterly newsletter, which is electronic, and our emails through MailChimp, which is our email platform. And we have social outlets, the Facebook page that both Ron and Ross work on, and the YouTube channel that Barry Schillingford uploads records and uploads all our meeting presentations to. Also, we get involved a little bit in other things that require some technical expertise that maybe where the committee that's working on it or the board member don't really feel quite comfortable with that or need a little help and guidance. So and our membership operations and our event registrations fall into those categories. And basically, we have the MMS website, and that's a WordPress .org site for those of you that might be familiar with content management systems. And I only say that because we'd be very interested if you have WordPress experience and you'd like to lend a hand. On our website, we use forms for membership, like new memberships and for renewals. And also our forms, as soon as somebody joins or renews, it sends over some data to our MailChimp about anybody that opts into our mailing list so that it's automatically added to MailChimp so that we can send those people emails without really having to do anything else. There's no extra manual step. Our quarterly newsletter, and I guess I'm not following this exactly, so let's see. Well, I'll skip around. So I'm going to skip the website server host account. That's just something you have to deal with when you have a website. The Google Workspace account is something that provides us with some of our domain emails, the ones that end in, excuse me, MinnesotaMycologicalSociety.org. And we also use it, the board uses it, and committees use it for distribution groups, internal distribution groups. And we use a shared Google Calendar for certain things. And also we use the Google Drive to store our board files and for collaboration on documents. And okay, then I have the newsletter here. So Heather, and she is actually the editor of the Toadstool Review. But she coordinates with, she's part of our committee, and she coordinates with others on our committee for maybe help with certain things. And that's a compilation of member submitted content and some news items. So our MailChimp account is another thing that we use, another tool, and that's for our messages to members, not the public. And also our Facebook page again, that's another part of it, so that we can put those interesting articles and photos, especially about events that we have going on in our club, especially the 4As, which we're getting lots of nice pictures now from members for that. we have the Zoom account, as I mentioned, that Barry handles. And those meetings, like this meeting, is going to be is being recorded right now, and then Barry will take it and upload it to our YouTube channel. We provide other things that we get involved in on this committee, because it's kind of like a mixed bag of a lot of different types of activities, because we support technical type problems or platforms or software that other people want to use to do things. So, and one of those is Ticket Tailor. We're using that now for events. Sometimes we use Google Forms or some other things for that. And we do some event or class registrations, or also I think even the elections we've done using our website. So, and anything else that falls in the area of technology, if we think we can help with it, if somebody needs help, we will try to help out with it. One thing I'd like to say is that, we're always looking for it. We have a working group. So like right now it's me, Heather, we also have Ross, and we have a couple of other volunteers, Mary Dresser, Ellie Schmidt, and I'm not sure where to put Yitka, because she's kind of on the 4A committee and we are supporting the 4A committee. But Yitka Sarusek, also she's helping with Ticket Tailor. So, but we're always looking for more help from members, volunteers, because there's so many different skills that that are used to do these things, and so we're always looking for people that have different skill sets that may be able to help us out with a particular project or something that or service that's being provided. In particular, things that we are looking for right now include help with graphic design layout in WordPress, and also finding and editing photos. You have to deal with a lot of photos, on the web, because that's what everybody likes to see is photos. And we have lots of really nice photos of mushrooms and events and things like that. But it takes some skills to be able to work with those photos, and maybe they need to be resized, or maybe they need to be cropped, maybe some text needs to be added to them. And so and particularly we are working on a new website right now that uses a lot of photos, and in particular for banners at the top of each page. So, and next year we'll be adding, we'll want help with the new website, adding updates, to events and recipes, blog posts, and other content. So also, we'll want to have more help adding 4As and other events in Ticket Tailor, which is really, the 4A committee's thing, but we're supporting them. So, and we try to utilize a team of volunteers for each project that we work on, so that, the work doesn't fall on just one person, and there's backups available when a team member might be on vacation, or, we have a life, we're volunteers. So, and we have a life, we may have a job. So it's good to have some other people who have your back and can pitch in and help when maybe you right now you're not available for some reason or another. So
yeah, you might be in the woods hunting for mushrooms.
yeah. Yeah. And I was going to ask for questions, but I think maybe it might make more sense to wait until the end. If you do have a question, you can put it in the chat and maybe we can get to it at the end, Kathy.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Jane. Appreciate it. Ross is one of our members at large. We have 2 members at large, and I would say this is kind of one of the nicest ways to join the board. If you're just like, I'm not quite sure what I want to do, I just kind of want to see how it all goes. That's this position. You sort of join to be the eyes and ears of the club, and just sort of offer your expertise. So Ross has been an MMS board member for just 1 year, and he's one of our 2 members at large. So like I said, in this role, he's not tied to a specific committee, but he can lend support wherever is needed. So he, as you saw, is on the education committee. He's volunteered at forays, assisted with event planning, and then contributed to initiatives aimed at engaging members. So he noticed an opportunity to broaden our reach by adding stuff to Facebook. So he sort of came with that plan, and he posts after every foray about kind of how the foray went. And our Facebook page, which is Minnesota Mushrooms, has an audience of 10,000 people. So yeah, I think it's a great way to, if you didn't get to go on a foray, but kind of wondered how it went and what did people find, what should I be looking for out in the world right now, the MMS Facebook page is a great place to go for that.
That's right. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, so I'm Ross. Just like Kathy said, I just do whatever needs to be done or what I feel like doing. I saw that need for some content on our social media that was kind of lacking. So I've kind of started to post and have other people post also. But now I've kind of gotten that ball rolling of we're using our social media a little bit more. If anybody attends events and takes good photos, feel free to email me these photos and we can get them up on the Facebook posts. And yeah, and other things I do, just like Kathy mentioned, is I volunteer wherever I'm needed. I helped teach that beginners class last weekend. I volunteer as assistant educator, assistant 4A leaders, and just really wherever is needed. And it is cool to see the behind the workings, behind the scenes of the MMS. And it's really a good place to start, like Kathy said, to just see what this club is all about.
Thanks so much, Ross. This was a post from one of the last forays and that Yitka led. And I really thought it was just a great view of what happens on a foray. And typically there's even some identification. So you probably have to go to the page and you can see there's our little logo on the page, but there's pictures of stuff on the tables with the names next to them. So even if you didn't get to physically be there, I think you can still learn a lot from our page. This is kind of a typical foray scene, and I'm so sorry I didn't see whose photos I grabbed, but they were just lovely. I loved seeing, taking a picture with your phone so you can study it when you get home, and yeah, just some lovely photos. And a little gratuitous picture of one of Ross's other projects. I was saying he's maybe not our youngest member, but he's got to be one of our youngest members. So yeah,
that's right.
Thanks for finding time to help out with all sorts of things when we all know it takes a lot of time to have a little one at home.
That's right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Our other member at large is David King, and he joined the MMS at the State Fair in 2019. He says he attended his first foray 3 days later and hasn't looked back. He and his wife Gretchen discovered that mushroom foraging was a great way to weather the pandemic. So lucky David is retired and forages whenever the conditions seem favorable. In addition to serving on the MMS board, he's volunteered at forays. And just like we talked about the members at large, take on projects that interest him or just don't seem to fit into other committees. He helped research a scientific advisor position for us and created a formal description for that position. And he has an exciting new thing he's developing just because it seemed fun. And again, no one was doing it, and it felt like it could really add a lot of interest and involvement at our forays. And actually, I see Sue is raising her hand. But maybe we'll get Sue. We'll maybe catch you right after David. So I'm going to show this. This is David, do you want to talk about the MMS passport and how someone might use that to kind of enhance their experience on forays or even just out by themselves?
Yeah, we're developing this passport program to enhance people's identification skills. Where the goal is to fill out a number of these, and then there's certain rewards that a person would earn along the way. Kathy, if you go to the next one, I was testing this with John at the state fair, and so I identified two. One, the first one you can see, the tree Volvariella, which is the one I'm holding in that picture. And then the wine cap, where I used the little box at the bottom to make a drawing of one of the things that helps to identify that particular mushroom. And I must have done good because John signed off on both, and we had a happy time with it. We're hoping to roll this out before the end of the year. We just have a few more lumps to get over to make this a program that anyone in the society can join.
Fun. It feels like once you've done something like this, you just have a closer relationship with a mushroom. When you have to answer questions, you're going to remember it more, and it's going to kind of become yours. It's almost like you're making your own little field guide of things that you've seen, which I think really sort of brings it home. I also wanted to mention that David's wife, Gretchen, designed our 125th citizen science patch. So thank you so much for that. I hope you get to see a lot of those out in the world as people wear them. I'm really proud of that event and the things that came out of it. But David's position is up at the end of this year. So that is one of the elected board positions that you can nominate someone for. You can nominate yourself. I think we have the link at the beginning of this meeting in the chat. All right. And Heather. Heather is multi-talented and has been a member of the MMS since 2018, became a member of the board since 2020, but worked at the state fair. She's the events committee chair, but is also on communications and IT committee. She's the newsletter editor. She did some wonderful presentations for us about the history of MMS and mycological societies in general.
I am the chairperson of the MMS Events Committee. And what the MMS Events Committee does is events that are for just MMS members rather than outreach. So Kathy talked a little bit about that overlap, and that was one of our sort of things that we decided on to disperse the various events that we do. And events that we do include things like the annual banquet. And by the way, we are looking for, somebody might be our new annual banquet coordinator, but we're always looking for people to participate in that. The silent auction is a part of that annual banquet, and actually a really large part. There's an amazing amount of planning that happens under that, and thankfully there's a great team of people that volunteer for that. The family fungal fair, and we also help with outreach events that fall under other committees, but for which they appreciate our assistance. Our events can't happen without plenty of people to help. So I'm the events committee chairperson right now. We're actually looking for a new committee chair to take over in 2025. And I would assist and mentor you as you transition into this role and make it your own. The events committee chair is an appointed position, so you don't have to go through an election, but we are looking for someone to do this, and we can only know you want to do it if you speak up. So let us know if you enjoy bringing exciting events to life, and I will assist and mentor you as we transition into this role and make it your own. One of the most important things about that the events chair does is to work with your team. And our team members include the events planner and the auction planner and the family fungal fair planner and all of the volunteers that help with each of these particular events. So we are always looking for reliable volunteers, and you can always feel free to do so. And I'm promising you we won't say no. There are also things that we do with other committees, like the Communications and IT Committee that helps us publicize our events and set up event signups and Ticket Tailor, and the Meetings and Speakers Chair that ensures that events are announced at meetings, as well as the MMS Board, and they help just to make sure that everything goes smoothly. They really have your back. And it's important but manageable. Because you have a team of volunteers helping you, events happen successfully year after year. And because it's happened before, we learn from it. So it's easier every time we do it. When we decide on new events, we often retire others. Now, the Family Fungal Fair started in 2023. So that's one of our newer events. I hope that you will consider the events chair position or any other position on our committee. Volunteers are always welcome. And again, I want to remind you that we are doing an Adopt a Highway this Saturday in Blaine. We're going to meet at 9 a.m. at the holiday station that's on 101st and University Avenue. We're going to do the 2-mile section between Highway 10 and 109. And to sign up, just fill out the questionnaire, and super quick, takes you 2 minutes. It's actually been put in the chat at the very beginning. So thank you so much for your time tonight. And back to you, Kathy.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, I think the thing that stood out the most to me was the part about making it your own. There are things that we've done every year and continue to do, but it doesn't mean that there isn't room for new things or reinventing things or putting your own spin on it. I think that's where the creativity and fun really comes in. All right, thank you all so much. Thanks for being interested. Have a great night.